Welcome to Musically Meditative Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Riley. I have my co-host over here, hoods up, hoods down.
A big reveal.
Sreten Jovanovic, what's up?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, I'm good.
Well, by the introduction of that song, which is Knife Party by Deftones from the White Pony album, this is Deftones White Pony Revisit, Review, Relive. The first, what is it, episode 1, right? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to do it or you want me to explain?
Explain.
So,
Explain.
Joe's a huge fan of this album. It's It made a huge impact on his life, and we want to do it in 2 parts. Since it did not make such an impact on my life, we're going to discuss it back and forth between you and me who doesn't have the extensive knowledge you do.
Right.
But I invite any Deftones fan or anybody that's a fan of the show that has opinions about this album, call in to our voicemail line or leave a message or send an email, musicallymeditated@gmail.com, because we are going to do a part 2. We have a mystery guest that we will reveal the day that we actually record it.
Right.
Someone that we both know that's actually a huge fan of this album, and then the 3 of us are going to discuss it. So this is a part 1, and we will have a part 2, but we invite everybody. So whatever means you want to contact, like I said, video, Facebook, voicemail message, email, pigeon, carrier,
Instagram direct messages, just slide right into those DMs. Just slide in.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
So that's why this is part 1.
Part 1, and, you know, for everyone, if there's any new listeners, please go back and check out some other Deftones episodes. I think it's been over a year. It has. When the first time I did this, it was Around the Fur. And I think it's about a 15 or 20-minute episode, but it's like right when we started off.
Right.
And this was the first time that I ever did anything like that. So go back and revisit that. That's very early, very early. So go back in the back catalog. And then we also did Diamond Eyes, and we had Nick Gloom and Justin Wallace from Juice Pro Wrestling with us.
Full house that day.
Full house. So that's a good episode. And then it was just you and I wanted to really spend some time on Deftones Self-Titled because I felt like it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of their albums. And that was a really good episode, too. So everyone, you know, if you're a Deftones fan, please go back and check those out. And, you know, we had a good time. So with White Pony, another thing, too, I want to mention is like every 10th episode, you know, I want to do a revisit review like this of albums that really changed my life and, you know, turn me on to different music. You know, not the Deftones. I mean, I know we're probably going to get some crap because I'm always, you know, revisiting Deftones or mentioning them because they're a huge band, you know.
You know what's funny?
For me, what?
As many times as you've mentioned the Deftones, and this is, you know, one of many episodes that we've done on the Deftones, where's that Morrissey episode?
Yeah, it's coming. That's good. I like how you put that out there. We do have a guest that will be joining us on the next few episodes, and we're going to break down Morrissey big time. So, you know, I'm not going to make his name out. I'm not going to put his name out there yet because hopefully he'll show up. But at any rate, yeah, we're going to have a nice Morrissey Smiths episode. But, yeah, I always go back to those. So for the listeners that we've already, you know, built up thus far, you know, we're not trying to rehash and, you know, beat a dead horse going over the same bands and stuff. But at any rate,
Beat a Dead White Pony?
Yeah, Beat a Dead White Pony. We're not going to do that. But, you know, this is a huge album for me personally. It turned me on to all different types of genres, and I'll get into that. But first, a little background on this album. It came out June 20th, 2000. It was recorded August 1999 to December 1999. It was certified platinum on July 17th, 2002, and it actually won a Grammy for the best metal performance for the song Elite. So those are some pretty impressive feats there for a band like the Deftones, because I don't think they've ever reached that status again, you know, with any other records or any other songs. So, you know, White Pony is definitely their best, I would say, especially commercially, you know, and as a band, everybody putting in their own 2 cents and coming together collectively to put out something. I think it's just their best representation of who the Deftones are, and it's a great album for someone that's never listened to the Deftones to check out White Pony first. You know, like it's just it's a good place to start. And Sreten, you're not the biggest Deftones guy, and for whatever reason, right? I mean, not the biggest Deftones
I got
fan.
tangled up in Corn about this time.
Okay, that's a good subject.
So when we had teams to pick, I didn't pick a team. I just liked what I liked, and I liked Corn.
Okay.
I liked his bipolar vocals. Chino's got his own bipolar vocals, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went after Jonathan Davis's.
And if the Deftones are listening to this, especially Chino, he's probably smacking himself in the back of the head because Korn was already brought up within, 6 minutes of this recording, and that was something, especially with White Pony, the Deftones and especially Chino wanted to get away from, was that whole new metal rap rock thing that they were lumped together with bands like Korn, Limp Bizkit.
Oh, I hated Limp Bizkit.
Right. Oh, I liked them back then.
Let me clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not like Limp Bizkit. I just didn't think it was original because they had their own. I liked rock with rap done the right way, but the way that they did it, especially the one hit was like a cover of something else. So you got 24 songs, 2 albums, and your one hit is that, and then you need like that one with him and Method Man. When Method Man and Fred Durst, I like that song, but I only like the Method Man parts.
No, I liked it back then. But enough about Korn and Limp Bizkit. Sorry, Chino. I know you're probably mad about that. Of course, it's funny how it came up. But, everyone has to come out at a certain time. They came out during that time. You know, they're from Sacramento. Korn was from Bakersfield. Chino and Chi, the bass player, had dreads, and a lot of people got him confused at the time.
Really?
Yeah, in the mid-'90s. And there was some similarities, especially like with fashion and somewhat of the sound, but if you really break it down, not really. And especially with White Pony, they went a total different direction. And I'm glad they did because the Deftones are the one band that, I loved in high school and I still love at age 35, and I'm not scared, obviously, to say it, like I still hold that compassion and love for them, from the first time I heard them until,
They definitely don't have the staying power with me either. Oh, I should say Korn doesn't.
Okay.
The last couple of days I've been listening to White Pony, and I have a new appreciation. A lot of it is me and you like doing the show, but then some of the songs are hitting me that I'm revisiting. I'm like, yeah, I did like that. Back then I liked that too. Mm-hmm. But when I revisit Korn, this made me sad because I revisited it like 6 or 7 months ago, and it bummed me out because I was like, uh-oh. I don't think I like this. Even the stuff that I thought was when they were at their best, because their last couple of albums I haven't really been into.
Right.
But then when they were at their height, and then even after that, where I thought, I had my favorite stuff. No, this White Pony album, and actually all the Deftones stuff, it withstands the test of time if you dig that stuff.
Yeah, this is like the perfect blueprint for like 2000. Like it just embodies like everything about the year 2000 to me, because first and foremost they used Terry Date again on this album, and they used Pro Tools, and that was like a big thing at the time to use Pro Tools for your production and your recording. Like that's when everybody started to go that avenue, and they were one of the first to do it. And there's just a lot of atmospheric sounds and fillers going on in this that has that Y2K, like if there's anything that kind of dates this, it's that. But then again, it's very timeless. Like, I listen to it today, or I could listen to it at least like once a month or whatever, and it just never gets old. And that's how an album's
some of this,
good.
that's the stuff I don't know how to put into words, where it helps you time travel a little bit, and it definitely does, but time travel without cringing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of music that there's a lot of 90s freestyle where unless you're into it, when you listen to it, you're like, oh, man.
Right.
How did we like this?
Yeah, there's one cringeworthy song on this album, but it wasn't originally a part of the album, but we'll get into that I can't really get into. It brings me back to high school. It's the song Back to School.
Right.
And they like rap rocked out for that. But we'll get into that. That's the only thing I find cringeworthy on this entire album.
And that's the one they fought. They didn't want it on there.
No, they didn't.
Yeah,
we'll get into that. Okay. But like I said, going back, like, as far as Adrenaline goes, the way I interpret that was more like teenage angst, with Chino's, lyrical content and just the energy and the aggressiveness of the entire album. And then you go to Around the Fur, and that was both heavy and romantic, as far as lyrical content goes, and with the shifts and pitches, like within the music. But you can also tell that it's very Steph driven, Stephen Carpenter. Like you could tell he wrote that entire album on guitar. So it's more aggressive, but you can tell they were maybe going to shift into a little bit more experimentation. And, especially with Chino's lyrical approach, he was a little bit more romantic, and if you look into the lyrical content, you could tell it was more about his relationship with his wife or bitching about touring and so on. But then when White Pony came out, the lyrics and the music, it was just more mystical. And it was kind of lyrically, it was a little bit more about like random storytelling.
Yeah.
Like a blank or a blank canvas, so to speak, like just throw and whatever sticks, go with it. So it was very artsy fartsy almost. But I always like to go into these too, like with my own personal stories and then like time traveling back, right? So the first time I ever got to see Deftones live was Ozfest 99. So remember, Ozfest 99 was July of 99, and they went into the studio of August of 99, like I mentioned before, and recorded until December. So I'll never forget this. It was the first time that I got to see the Deftones, and it was in Chicago, and they had the backdrop of the White Pony. So I was like, what is that? But it made an impression. It was all red. It had the White Pony and the stars. Like, okay, well, that means something, but nobody knew what it was. And then as far as their merch goes, too, like they had all their T-shirts, but there was that shirt. It was the red shirt, and it had the star and the pony. I'm like, I got to get that. And then, like, one of my other buddies got it, too. So when we went to school to take our junior pictures or whatever, like, it's so funny, but everyone, here I am with my Deftones hoodie on, but everyone had their Deftone, like, everybody wore their Deftones T-shirt, and, like, I wore the red one, and I had the seashell necklace, and the frosty tips. I was one of those guys. But I'll never forget that. And as far as the live performance goes, it was a shitty time slot. I've talked about this before. People go back and revisit the episode I did with my father. We did a ticket stub trade-off. It's really cool. And I know I talked about this, but they were put on right before Slayer, and it was like 100 degrees, and everybody was upset, and they were charging like $5 for a bottle of water. So when the Deftones came on, everybody, it was like right when the sun was going down, and everyone was upset and sweaty and drunk and miserable and God knows what. And they just started to throw their water bottles. Like everyone was just throwing their water bottles, and we were like underneath the pavilion, so I couldn't really watch them perform because I had to watch my back so I didn't get hit in the face with a water bottle or mud or something. It was just really chaotic. And it was a shitty time to come on before Slayer, too. Like who wants to come on before Slayer or after them?
Yeah.
I mean, Black Sabbath did that year, but that's, that's Black Sabbath,
right.
So Deftones having to fill those shoes, I thought it was kind of a shitty time signature and a time slot. And they really weren't the best either. Like, no disrespect to them, but it wasn't like, I don't know. Their sound is kind of a hard thing to capture outside. I've seen them many, many times, probably close to 30 now. And they were really raw, and it was just kind of winded. I mean, this was a long time ago, but I really wasn't like, oh, my God. Like, this band's amazing. Like, they didn't blow me away like that. I remember Chino was wearing a ninja gi, a black ninja gi with, like, ninja slippers, and it was pretty badass. But that was just my first experience, like, with White Pony and the whole imagery and everything. So it wasn't the best, but it wasn't awful.
But you weren't full-on fanboy then yet.
No, I wasn't full-on fanboy.
Yeah. I was just like, this is cool.
Yeah. And, this was also around the time, too, when Napster was out, and finally the album did drop. And when it came out, this dude I knew, he would get the Napster stuff beforehand, right? He was, like, really good with that. Because remember, like, with the computers.
I was one of those guys.
You were that guy?
Yeah. So
it
was a glorious time.
So he knew that I loved him, and he was like, here, man, here it is. Here's the new Deftones. And he actually had Back to School on it because that wasn't originally on the first release of it.
Right.
And I put it in, and what I remember, I was like, wow, it was kind of hard. It was a lot to take in, but I wanted heavy because I was young and I was a metalhead, so I wanted heavy. And what I do remember with that Ozfest performance, they played one song I didn't know what it was, and it was Korea, which is like track number 8 on the album. And then Elite, like I said, they won the Grammy for. Those were like the two heaviest. So I remember just listening to those two songs like over and over. And then eventually going back, I started to like the other stuff. But there was a lot of dudes that were like diehard Deftones fans that hated this album. Like I still have friends that like just, they threw them to the side. because it was just a little bit too more, a little bit whiny, a little bit more soft. It wasn't just straight, balls to the wall, heavy chug-a-lug.
I was listening, today I listened again, but on first listen a couple days ago when I heard Korea, I have no recollection of that song. So when I heard it, I was like, yeah. Because I listened to a couple of the songs, and then that one came up, and that was kind of my tempo for the morning.
Okay.
Because I like something a little
harder
bit more
hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good song.
So that was Ozfest 99. Now I'll jump into, like I said, when it came out, how I got it. Buddy, downloaded it for me from Napster. So that was probably May. I just remember school just got out. It was something like that. It was like right when school got out. Then the album came out, and then they did their first tour, and that's when I went with my friend Ricky in Paris, rest in peace, and another dude to, like I said, the Riv, and I was like, all right, now I'm ready. Now I want to see what they're about. I'll see them inside and see what the whole, the big deal about the Deftones, what it is and so on. And I'll never forget, Chino came out, and his hair was longer, and he wore like a tie. Like he just looked kind of like sloppy emo. I think that's like the best way to describe it. Like he just looked a little bit sloppy emo, and his hair was long. I'm like, what's going on here? And back then you couldn't really like look up shit like you can now. Like you don't know who wrote what, or I don't what his influences were, or where the hell his mind was even at. But like he just came out like that, and he was kind of swaggy and just all over the place. I'm like, all right, this is a weird approach. And they just totally killed it. We were on the upstairs part of the Riviera. And what's cool about this, and we're going to play it at the end of this episode, there were 2 live recordings caught of this. So on YouTube, I just searched Deftones Chicago years ago, and there's a guy on YouTube, Deftones Live, and he has this recorded, this particular show, and it's like backstage, like he's on the side of the stage by Steph, the guitarist, and he films Korea and White Pony. And it's just really cool because, like I said, he's kind of like catty corner backstage, but then you can see the entire Riv. I'm like, wow, I was there, like one of those things. Well, I ended up reaching out to this guy. I'm like, hey, do you have any other footage or, anything from that era, like 2003? He's like, well, I actually have a recording of Digital Bath from that show, but just the audio. So we're going to play that audio for you. And he just released it like 2 months ago. So I had this like little interaction with him or her or whoever it is. I don't know if it's the Deftones, but check out Deftones Live on YouTube, and he has a lot of awesome, rare, old school footage. But
it's a really cool recording. Sounds great.
It does sound great. And what's cool about that, like whoever this person is, it's like it's their best performance live of this song of Digital Bath, because Chino's able to hit all of his notes, and wear and tear for a long time on those vocal cords. Like, I don't know if he can do it now. Probably not. Not from what I remember the last few times that I got to see him live, even if they played Digital Bath. It's been a minute since I've seen him play that. But another thing happened to Chino, too. Like, during this tour, or like right after Back to School, he blew his left, I think it was his left vocal cord. Like, he totally blew it. So they were worried for a while if he was able to even come back. So I think he did some vocal training or something. I don't really know the backstory on that, but I remember it was like on MTV News back then, like, yeah, Chino, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa, no. Like, everybody was like worried about it and shit. And I do remember too, I think this was around the time, now that I'm reminiscing, he was like coming out saying he was going to change his name to Pony One, or maybe the album was going to be called Pony One, or he was going to legally change his name from Chino to Pony One. I remember that going around, but that didn't happen. And then another live story I have about this era too was to the Back to School tour, and talking about the song Korea. We missed the Chicago ticket, so we went to Milwaukee, and I went with my friend Paris and my buddy Matt and Big Ticket Tony G, and he was older, so Tony drove us there. But when we went, we wanted to get front stage. We wanted to be like right there. Okay. Well, this was like the hype of White Pony, so it was Deftones, Incubus, and Taproot, and this is like right when Incubus blew up too. So it was a great tour.
Yeah.
So we got all the way in the front, and then they came out with Korea, and they opened that first chord, and it was just chaotic. Like, I was stepping on people to stay up. I had to flex and squeeze to breathe, and it got so chaotic. Like, Chino stopped the set, like, hey, everybody get your shit together. Like, what's going on?
Really?
But it was very, very intense. Very, very intense. I remember they played Teenager at that particular show, and it was cool because they dropped like the disco ball down, and Teenager's like this trip hop, track on there, and it's just Chino singing, and I guess he wrote that like when he was a teenager or whatever, but it was a really cool experience. And I'm trying to digress back to that Riviera experience. I don't remember what was the best song that they play live. It was so long ago, but at least, there was some audio recording of it, so people can go visit and watch that video, but we'll definitely play that song at the end of this episode. But, jumping into like transition into the like actual music behind this album, I don't know if a lot of people know or not, but Chino wrote about half the songs. So that was something we noticed too when I saw him live for the second and third time. Chino was playing a guitar, and everybody's like, what the hell's going on? Like, nobody knew. And he wasn't the best at the time, but it was like, what's going on here? But he wrote half the songs for this album, and, it created a lot of bad blood between Chino and Steph. And to get back into like what you were saying, like when you brought up Korn and the whole new metal thing, Steph wanted to keep it heavy, I believe. And Chino's like, no, I don't want to be put into this box with these other guys. And they were butting heads big time, like a creative thing. Like, you know how it is. I mean, we might butt heads here and there. Or we constantly butt heads, but
we figure it out.
They were at each other's neck, and I don't think Steph really liked it. And the funny thing is it's really their best album, and it really made them commercially, successful. Right. So shout out to Chino, but Steph kind of played his position and just wrote his songs, and Chino did his. But I think too, like with Chino lyrically, and the way he sung it was way more emotional. People would even say almost emo, and then new wave. You could definitely hear like his new wave influence for sure. Like as far as Morrissey goes, and The Cure, Duran Duran, so on and so forth. And what I really think is cool too is like the sexual dynamics. Like Deftones music is very sexual. There's not a lot of girls, like that I was dating or that I hung out with at this particular time that didn't have Deftones White Pony like in their CD collector, like there's something, not feminine, but there's like a good sexual energy, behind this album. Do you get that at all, Sreten, or no?
No.
No? Why not? Nothing?
I don't know. The way he sings, the rhythm,
okay.
The parts of the song, the parts of any songs that are slowed down, and then they have a deliberate, I don't know if it's deliberate, because it's like a flow. It's like a, how would you describe it? That's kind of the reason why I would think that it doesn't translate well in outdoor concerts. Indoor, where you have walls and a ceiling and all that other stuff, it would.
It captures
just because
it.
There's and I'm sorry if I'm using the wrong description, but like an airiness to it, like it flows and it's like breathing. But then sometimes when you breathe and you go in and out, sometimes it's a good mix when he starts to scream sing or get a little more intense. It's almost never like crazy fast, right? It's almost never like like
no, some. I mean,
like
there's
Slayer or some other band,
yeah,
right? It's like a back and forth.
Yeah,
it's very. I guess it's very sexual.
It's very sexual. It really is. Like
when I describe it that way.
Yeah, their music is
being a pervert.
Yeah, but I mean, it has it's build up and it's climactic like peak, and then it goes back down. I mean, it really they're a very, very sensual or sexual band. And you could hear that through the music, but definitely through Chino. He's a very vulnerable lyricist. Like his vocal style is just very vulnerable to me. Another thing I'd like to point out about this album, White Pony, with the pony in the album cover, Chino was apparently listening to a lot of Hum, and they're from Illinois, and we've talked about them before on a lot of different episodes here. And you can hear a lot of Hum guitar type riffs or structure. Like if you really break it down and you listen to You Prefer an Astronaut, if you listen to that album specifically, Chino has been on record saying he was listening to that a lot when he was writing the certain songs that he wrote for White Pony. And not only that, the album cover itself, like Hum You Prefer an Astronaut it's a zebra, but it's in the corner and it's by itself, and it kind of looks like the White Pony cover. So, And not only that, the song Little Dipper, it's the song that opens up You Prefer an Astronaut. it sounds pretty much the same as Knife Party, just a little bit slower, so not saying the Deftones ripped them off, but everybody go back and listen to that.
But strongly influenced.
Strongly influenced Little Dipper song. So, that's how it goes. And now I want to transition a little bit into song meanings and secrets. And we'll start off with the first song, which is Faticiera. I hope I'm saying that right. But this is the one Deftones song, too, that there's not another one that sounds like it. The rhythm and the song structure is all over the place, and it's just a great opener for an album. Like, even today when I listen to this, there's something about it that just kind of it gets me excited and it gets me happy. But then it's very, the song itself is melodramatic, but there's something about the drum beat and how it starts off. It's like, oh, all right, it's the White Pony escapades, let me get on board here, because It's kind of like a voyage, and it's a good way to start it off. And it's named after a Brazilian female, and it's lyrically about a kidnapping scenario. And Faticiera is a Brazilian female, and she's apparently the most wanted woman in Brazil. She's a sexual symbol. Her trademark is a vial that she uses to cover her body in a sexual situation. And this is weird too. She became famous in a TV show where only men could participate. And the host asked a few questions, and it was really weird. How can I say this? And then she would shave certain parts of her body until she got really embarrassed. And I don't know. He read about this weird lady named Faticiera, and then he wrote the lyrics after that. And in Portuguese, Faticiera means witch. So I don't know. That's like I said, with the lyrical content, he was just watching some weird, random Brazilian, goofy TV show
hair.
And shaving.
I feel like in witchcraft, a lot of the they have all these crazy ingredients, and one of the ingredients is a nail or a piece of someone's hair in order to finalize the spell.
It's so weird.
The whole thing's weird. I don't like it.
It's so weird. It's so weird. But who, from going from Around the Fur, Mascara, who's a song that's directly about his wife, so to speak. And anybody who wants to check out me and Brett Short, we talked about it on episode 39. The lyrical content one. So go back and revisit that. But listening to something like that and being a teenager and being able to connect the dots, this guy's struggling in his relationship to, what the hell is Faticiera? And then you look it up, and I'm even going over it now, wait,
no!
what? Famous TV show where only men could participate,
right.
And then she would make men shave themselves. What is that? Super weird, but yeah. But that song, man, there's something about
escapades.
It. White Pony Escapades. There's something about that song, it always gets me going. And then when they play it live, you just move. And I haven't seen them play it live in a long time, I don't think. But at any rate. Yeah, Faticiera. Do you remember that one, Sreten, or no? Off the top of your head?
No.
Okay. It's the opener. Some people think Back to School's the opener because the second or third repress of it, that's when the record company wanted them to have a radio-friendly single to put out, so they put it in the very front, and it just totally messes the whole flow of the album up, I don't know why they did that, but it's a money-making thing. Now, moving on to the second track, which is Digital Bath. We'll play that at the end, that live version. I do know this about it. Chino has been recorded to saying that he wrote this when he was completely wasted, drunk, intoxicated. But it is about luring a girl into a bathtub and then electrocuting her. Yeah, with an appliance. So that's what it's about. I don't know what else to say, but, I guess he feels like more. But at any rate, that's another one, too, where the video doesn't really represent what the song is about, if that makes any sense.
Right.
It's just kind of goofy. It's like the tour, a tour story. And I know that they captured all their live tour recordings. They were supposed to make this movie. It was called Entertain Me. And it was online for a while, but it was a documentary following them around during the tour of this. And the record company they wouldn't let them release it because it was too dark. It wasn't all the happy and cool shit. It was more about them dwelling on how bad tour life sucks. So they took all the footage from that particular song and put it for this video. So it's a cool video, but it doesn't represent what the song's about. But I guess the song really doesn't really represent anything. It's just some goofy, like, I don't know, dream or drunken dream about electrocuting a chick in a bathtub.
Right.
So there's that. Now, Elite is the third song. Like I said, that won a Grammy. That song's just a banger. Brett and I talked about that too on episode 39. Like I said, that's a heavy one. That's one of the first ones I wanted to listen to right when I got the record because it hits hard. They do play that now live, and they really pull it off well. You know, it's a definitely mosh pit worthy track. But Elite, headbanger, head bobber for sure. RX Queen, like you said earlier, this is one of your favorites, right?
When I re-listened to all this, there's only 3 songs on this album that I remember. But this is the first one when I went through the songs as they were in the album that caught my ear. Like I liked this one.
Okay. As far as the lyrical content goes behind this, it's obvious it's about probably his wife or girl, whoever that he's infatuated with. But the title is really cool. RX Queen. That's obviously has something to do with prescription drugs, right? And that's all I have to say about that. I mean, the drum beat obviously starts off pounding, almost hip hop ish, and I do know this. Shout out to my cousin Ian. He has a tattoo of the chorus, "'Cause you're my girl and that's all right." Yeah, and then I think it's his wife's. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it's his wife's lips. It's like a lip tattoo.
Really?
So yeah.
Nice.
Really cool. Really cool.
Real cool, Ian.
Real cool, Ian.
So cool.
So cool. Now, Street Carp, this is kind of like this is where the Morrissey shit starts coming in. I'll just say that, like the whole new wave, because he's very flamboyant and he's, I don't know, Chino's kind of singing, just I don't know, just kind of like letting it roll off, like a lot of highs and lows and pitches and just all over. And then you could tell this is like a Steph written guitar song too, so he's kind of experimenting a little bit different too. Like it's not so heavy, but a little bit more flangey and like shoegazy.
Right.
So I love Street
I do
Carp.
remember when you mentioned that stuff. I do remember back in the day that there was a trend that seemed to be as popular as White Pony was. There was a trend that these other bands were sort of maybe more popular, or more people liked certain songs that weren't their songs. But I would watch interviews with Chino, and I would watch the way that he conducted himself and stuff, and he really owned this style that they created, like the way he sang, the way that the music was. And back then, I always thought, I was like, that guy's cocky. He's sort of a dick. But in hindsight, I have mad respect for that. Like, you had your vision. You wanted to do it this way. You did not want to be, I mean, you say he was influenced, like there's an influence by Hum and other, probably other bands. But as far as like them being different from all the other bands at that time, like Incubus, Korn, whoever, they sure were. They didn't sound like the other super popular bands at that time.
It's kind of like if you listen to The Cure, you know it's The Cure when you hear Robert Smith sing. There's nobody else that could really pull that off. That is who it is, and it's the same with the Deftones.
So I got respect for the way that he chose to sing all those songs.
Yeah, it's definitely special, and it's one of a kind. Nobody else could pull. Like if nobody else could pull it off, if Chino left the group or if something awful happened, like you couldn't.
It would be different.
It would be different. But yeah, he's. What's cool with the dynamic of Deftones, and that's what really caught my ear when I first heard him when I was like 15 or 16, was heavy music with a different vocal approach. Yes, he screams, but nobody else sounds like that, and that's really what he was doing. Like he was putting his influence of the the 80s new wave stuff, and he was singing like that over heavy riffs. Like it's really, really ahead of its time, and nobody else could really do that the way he does that. So, at any rate, good point, Sreten. Great job.
I do okay.
Okay.
I'll take it. Whatever, man. I'll take
it. Moving on to Teenager, like I said, I got to see him play that at the Back to School tour. And this is another song that really opened me up to different types of music, because it's like a trip hop or a dream pop kind of track. Because another notable thing with White Pony is Frank Delgado was an actual official member finally, and he was the sample turntable guy. And I know with this track, I believe DJ Crook, who was Chino's buddy who's in Team Sleep, I don't know if he made the entire track or the entire cut, but he was involved in this. But you can also hear like Frank's Frank's talents, like with a lot of the atmospheric stuff. I mean,
Right.
it's on a lot of tracks, but especially Teenager with Crook there and Chino's approach to the lyrics, like it was just, I don't know, it was just a really cool sound to hear at a young age. Like, whoa, like these are like hip hop beats, like what's going on? And then, Chino singing like Chino over it, and then you start looking into more stuff like, oh, what's Team Sleep? That's Chino, one of those like that's Chino's band before the Deftones. Like, what's that all about? And that's a good thing to bring up. Right when this came out, there were Team Sleep demos that came out too, and that was the Napster days. So the same guy that gave me this White Pony album, he also gave me the Team Sleep demos. And I'm like, holy shit, what is this?
That's why the days of Napster were so awesome.
They
you
were
could be
awesome.
Like, hey man, I have this album that you wanted to hear.
Right.
Then I got like 14 others.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what?
Like, how long does it take you to get this?
Yeah.
Like 2 hours. It took no time. You can get you had at your disposal everything.
Yeah, it was just and that just changed my whole mindset on electronic music and just the beats and just the atmospheric sound. So then that led into like Boards of Canada and Aphex Twin and Venetian Snares for me, but just like how influential,
Right.
And like that particular track was just huge.
Wow,
man.
that took you to Boards of Canada and all that other electronic stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, I had friends that showed me that too,
right.
like, Sneaky Pete, Mike Shirelli, we've had him on.
Yeah.
But it was like that because then I remember I was talking to Mike and he was like, yeah, like Frank, Frank Delgado, the DJ or the sampleist, like he would play Boards of Canada before the Deftones would come on, because they'd always come out to like a certain random track or whatever. And yeah, just stuff like that. You start connecting all the pieces, Chino, like I said, on Street Carpets, like, man, that's a weird lyrical approach. And then you start looking up some more stuff like the Napster days and wait, they're covering the Smiths and they're covering Duran Duran, Nightboat, and whoa, The Cure. It's like, wait, what's going on here? Right. So yeah, just as an example, but Teenager opened me up to a lot of electronic music. So yeah, shout out to Team Sleep, especially like those demos. There's some other demos that have resurfaced, but those particular ones, I don't know, what number it is or however that worked out. They eventually came out with an album like 03 or 05. Yeah, it was 05. But Mike Patton was on it, all of that. Oh, I got to digress real quick back to RX Queen.
Yeah.
That chorus, he's not credited, but it is Scott Weiland is singing the backup vocal.
I was going to ask because
Okay.
I read
I think
something.
I brought that up maybe before on the podcast.
Some of the vocals on here with some of the guests and other people that are doing it. I mean, you're about to get into it, I think, but you don't always know if it's a guest singer or if it's Chino. Like you're just listening to the song and yeah,
because You're My Girl and That's All Right. That's Scott Weiland's doing the backup with him on that. So yeah, because they were in LA recording this, and a lot of people. They were bringing on a lot of different artists to just come sit in and watch them, or they were open for ideas and so on and so forth. Like, and then moving on to Knife Party, which is probably one of my favorite Deftones songs of all time. That's where they had that Rod Lean lady come in, and she's doing like these high pitch, like opera vocals during one of the bridges, like the main bridge of the song, and it's just amazing, And I don't know, just the intro to that with the guitar. The way Chino's singing, the way the bass comes in. I know that rest in peace, Deftones first bass player, he was using a fretless bass on that. So that was before its time too, and like following the rhythm of the drums a little bit more than, not following necessarily Steph so much on there. But that's just a powerful, powerful song. Moving on to Korea, we talked about that. I don't think I have anything really else to put behind that track. And then Passenger, we'll move right on to Passenger because it's one of their best songs and most fan appreciated songs. They play it live all the time. They'll bring a guest on to have sing Maynard's part, but that's one of your favorites. You're over there smiling.
I just really like it. I forgot that Maynard did one. I just love Maynard's vocals, but then the whole song's awesome.
Yeah.
And I forgot that I knew, like, don't ask me to sing it right now, but I forgot that I knew as many of the lyrics as I knew. I sat in the car and I sang some of it and I was like, how do I know this? I almost like put on a Dave Matthews song just to.
Oh, don't say that.
No, I didn't.
Don't do that.
No, I was just very surprised. Sometimes I forget that I actually had like little mini, you know how we all have phases sometimes with certain bands or certain genres. I didn't know that I actually dipped my toes in a lot of this stuff, but I forgot. So I remembered with this song. Like I was like, oh yeah, I used to love this song.
It's a great song. It's a classic. I guess the backstory on it was Maynard was coming in to help them arrange the music. He wasn't going to actually guest star and sing, but then he helped him piece it together and write, like they were writing the riffs, but he was arranging it for them. And then Chino was writing lyrics. And then, Maynard's kind of like, hey, I got this idea. And then it just organically came into like a trade-off situation. And they only played it once or twice together, like with Maynard coming on the stage, but I believe it was in Europe. But it's a classic song.
It's a good song.
Ain't it? It's a perfect title, especially when you have a passenger there with you. Now we'll move on to Change. That's their biggest hit ever in the House of Flies.
That's my favorite.
That's your fave?
Yeah.
They always.
I mean to be lame, but
No. I mean, it's the one that I'll skip. I do like the acoustic version that they had of this. It was like acoustic mixed with a little bit of electric, but
I just like that. I like that sample at the beginning that starts it.
see, that's where Frank comes in.
Yeah.
With the atmospheric samples.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something about it, and he was such an important part to the group to fill in that dead space because they never wanted to use him as a wick, kind of like DJ.
Yeah.
Like Chino had a specific idea.
Yeah.
He was buddies with Crook from Team Sleep, and he just fit in perfect,
Yeah.
And that's a good point. I love that like eerie, hollow sample.
There's two of them. There's that dun the whatever. I don't want to sing it. And then that airy thing, like that combination. They both get later, and they both in there within like the first 10 seconds of the song. And I just like it. Wasn't this in one or two movies? It was in the soundtrack of Spawn, possibly, or Queen of the Damned. One of the
It's
two.
Queen of the Damned.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, you always bring that up. Like, I'll never forget the Queen of the Damned.
I didn't like the movie. I just like this song, and I think one other song on their soundtrack. But I really like this song.
Chino was quoted to saying something too, like this is when the band really sat down and collectively worked together. Like instead of like a guy, here's the riff, like they all just sat down and kind of grooved, which is a great way to write a song. Like especially after 2 albums and whatever they were doing before, like they actually sat down and grooved this out. And another thing too, on this single, like I said, there was an acoustic version, and then there was a song called Crenshaw, and I love that song.
Crenshaw?
Yeah, Crenshaw. It's like a B-side of the Change single, and it's just a really awesome track. It brings me back to those early 2000 days. But, there was also a White Pony EPK, and it reminds me of Wallace too. Like, it came on a sampler, and it had a 1984, like the book or the movie vibe to it.
Right.
And it was just awesome. And they like went through every track, and they were playing in this like abandoned warehouse, and there was just all these weird like zombie kind of aliens that needed a certain oxygen, and they couldn't be in light, and it was just great. And so like 2000, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it is.
Perfect. And then Pink Maggot is technically the closer on the first release, and there is some live footage of this track before White Pony came out, and I don't know, people just go on YouTube and put Pink Maggot live, and it was around the Fur era, and you could tell Chino didn't necessarily have his vocals out, but he didn't have the lyrics, but he had his vocal arrangements around it, and it's amazing. And this particular chorus is what the radio or the record company heard, and they're like, we like that chorus, but could you use that and do something rap rocky with it? And they're like, I don't know about that. And they're like, no, come on. Like, we're going to get you the same producer that Papa Roach used for that one song.
Papa Roach.
Remember? Losing Myself, Losing My Mind, whatever that awful song is.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, I guess. So they gave him this badass producer, and they wrote Back to School. So they used the chorus from Pink Maggot in Back to School. And then Chino just wrote some rap rhymes behind it. And it kind of ruined like the album when they repressed it, because like I said, they put it at the very beginning and it just doesn't fit.
Right.
It was like one of those, I hate to say it, but like a sellout moment, and the Deftones at the time thought it was total garbage, but they just did it to do it, and the record label was pressuring them. And looking back, I've read some articles too to where they're like, yeah, we feel bad about it, but now they're to the point where they're like, hey, we still play it live every now and then, and we appreciate it. And then when I go back, I know I'm shitting on it pretty bad, but it does bring me back to like that time of high school or going back to the back to school tour. So it was gimmicky, it was trendy, and that's where they like went to the rap rock thing again, and it sucked kind of. Like looking back, like it's definitely a song I do not listen to, and I'm kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well,
because Pink Maggot is a beautiful song. Like there's a lot of different interpretations for it. I know at the very end of it, it says "Now pass the flask" is the lyric. There's this guy named, I think it's Seth. I forget his last name, but everyone, if you're interested in like the meaning of Pink Maggot and how deep it is, like just YouTube search Pink Maggot lyrical meaning, and this guy has this awesome like 15-minute write up about it, and it's like really in depth. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that. I'm like a huge Deftones fan, so. Moving on to the Boys Republic. I did get to see him play this song, but that was in 2003. I've talked about that concert many times. The Boys Republic was a song that was only included on a special edition release of White Pony. The special edition release of White Pony came on an all red album jewel case and red CD, or an all red vinyl LP, and then there was a black one. I own the black one. I've only come across like one person that had the red, and Boys Republic was the last song on there as like an extra, and it's an amazing track. I only got to see him play it live once.
how many times do you see him in like a
Close to 30.
Okay.
It's like 28.
That's my question.
I think like
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to sit down, but it's close to 30, and it's just it starts off with a, how do you say it, a didgeridoo? Didgeridoo. Is that how you say it? And that's Chi playing that, and Frank's doing his crazy elements behind it as well. And, it takes about 30 seconds to start, but when it does, it's just an amazing, amazing track. Here's some transitioning into some weird facts. White Pony, like getting to the meaning of White Pony, there's a lot of different references, but the number one main reference to this meaning, it's a cocaine thing. So I've read some stories, like especially Knife Party, behind that song and the lyrical meaning. Everyone would bring in their own knife to cut up the coke or something. I don't know, Deftones, you tell us. But then if you really read the lyrics, like it's "I'm up here forever," it's like it sounds kind of like a druggy, groupie kind of a thing, like if you really break down the lyrics. But there's always been that reference to White Pony, or anything white is a reference to cocaine. So there's been things where Chino, necessarily he didn't deny it, and there's been, some interviews too where they were kind of open about it. So it is what it is. But he also was talking about like books, and if you read certain books, a white pony also means that you're having a sexual dream, so he throws that out there too. And like, there's all their other like songs like in reference to White Pony, like Ride the White Horse, so on and so forth. So I think a lot of the lyrical content and the meaning behind White Pony is kind of like a dreamy, drug-induced, adventure, So we'll see. I had a friend too, like that I used to work with, and I would play Deftones at work because like we worked at a retail place and we were always like in the sound system area, and he was more of a heavy metal guy.
Yeah.
And then I would switch out and put the Deftones. He's like, whenever I listen to the Deftones, he's like, I just feel like I'm on a bunch of drugs talking through a telephone. That's what he would always say. I'm like, that's a pretty decent, opinion there, my friend. But back into how this album influenced me. Like I said, it opened me up to different new wave, dream pop, trip hop, shoegaze, post rock, alternative metal, but definitely with the new wave stuff. I mean, I listen to a lot of it now. I've always listened to different interviews, especially with Chino, and what kind of music that, influenced him. And, if it wasn't for White Pony, I wouldn't have listened to The Cure, Pornography, or anything from the Smiths or Morrissey, or like I said, Duran Duran, Aphex Twin. I don't know. Aphex is a little extreme, but definitely like Boards of Canada. Just, I don't know. I could just go on and on. Hum, like we mentioned too.
Right.
There's just a lot of different bands that this album freaking pushed me in that direction. And if in anything too, like a lot of metalheads, they get in that rut and they stick in that rut, and they don't want to explore, and they don't want to be adventurous, and the Deftones were able to show me with their music, like, hey, there's no rules to this shit. Like, why be in one specific genre? Like, who are you trying to impress here?
Right.
Like, just whatever you grew up with and whatever influence you, just put it out there, put it in your music.
Right.
So, that's what I love about it. And that's what I want to kind of to go into here. We'll we'll go into this transition with hate mail. And Sreten, do you have some hate mail?
I have one piece of hate mail.
And I do too. You start off with yours.
You have. All right.
All
I'll try to do without my glasses.
Okay.
All right. I queued it up. Let me just make sure this scrolls all right. Dear Musically Meditated Podcast, dear Joe and Sreten and whoever else is in there with you guys. Great hip-hop freestyle episode. Really cool conversation. I've noticed that Sreten hasn't been on the show every week. This is fine, but I wonder, Joe, is it easier to breathe in the studio when that hot air balloon isn't sucking up all the breathable air? I've seen the video. I've seen Sreten's giant head cover most of the view. You guys are a lot more giggly when he is in the studio. I thought it was because Sreten might be a funny guy, but now I think it's oxygen deprivation for anyone in the studio with that hot breathing bag of stuttering potatoes. What? Oh God. But I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he is nice, and I enjoy his production skills.
Yeah.
I'm also Team The Cure and Robert Smith, and I know Sreten is too, so I guess he's okay. On to Joe.
Jeez.
I got a very long-winded man.
That was,
I'm also from the Midwest, and I must say your vocals are great, and the video on YouTube has been a great addition. But on behalf of the eyes of all your fans and viewers, I just want to say we are glad the gun show is closed for the season. Winter is coming, and I am okay with that. Hey, Joe, the other day I went to visit my 84-year-old grandmother. It was like 6 p.m., and naturally she was in her sleeveless nightgown.
What?
And just for a moment when she brought me some leftover food, I saw her arm and got excited and said to myself, hey, Joe Riley is here. But then I realized where I was, and I calmed down.
I got grandma arms? Is that what they're saying?
Apparently.
Oh, man, I'll have to do some more push-ups and tricep
Arm
extensions. I only wore a tank top once. I guess I'm not tank top worthy.
Not yet, I guess.
Whatever.
It says, sorry, Joe.
I thought you had one. I thought you had one.
It's one long-ass one. Sorry, Joe. Love the show. Have a great week. John from Lansing. John, you
Well, they actually gave their name and where they're from.
Yeah, local person. Well, that's
Lansing's
assuming
kinda
it's
local.
Lansing, Illinois.
Okay.
I think there's Lansing, Michigan, too.
All right. Well, here we go.
I don't want to hear yours.
All right. Well, this kind of has to go with what I was saying with like metalheads being stuck in their rut. But here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. Hey, Joe, how can we take your opinion so seriously when you always boost the Smiths and Morrissey? Sound like you're a wine bag hipster and not a true metalhead to me. I'm like, okay, well.
A lot of people calling us bags of things.
Bags.
What do you get it? Wine bag,
Wine
of
bag?
potatoes,
Yeah, bags of potatoes.
hot air balloon.
All right.
How dare you guys?
Whatever.
Thanks for this.
Keep sending it. Keep sending it. What's the number so they can keep sending this hate mail?
I always forget.
I
What
do
is it
too.
up there? 1-812-963-4727.
And that's free too, because the last time we put this Deftones stuff on the Deftones page, some asshole.
Does that count as hate mail?
Yeah, it is hate mail. What did he say again?
That was the weird. I told you this. That was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Somebody said, "Hey, is this some kind of scam? Are we gonna have to pay for these phone calls?"
Yeah.
No.
No. It's toll free.
Such a weird concern.
All you do is leave a message.
This is not a Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff hotline from the 80s.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It's just a Google voicemail number. Chill out.
Chill
and
out.
call it. We welcome all your messages.
And now I'm going to move into don't like what you like.
Oh, here we go.
All right. So let me get on my pedestal real quick. I don't like Gary Vee, and I don't care if you like him, and I honestly don't care if he really influences you. Since when is everything about making money and followers? All right, like I get it. It's nice, and he pushes to like follow this and do that, but it's like, dude, you're either on a lot of Adderall or some really good coffee, but after that, back off. Right? You're just a little bit too much in my face, and don't tell people how to live their lives, Gary Vee.
Calling you out, Gary.
We're calling you out. I don't need you to influence me on on anything. You know, like if I want to cut my grass, I'll cut my grass. If I want to stay in today, I'll stay in. If I want to stay in bed all day like Morrissey, I'll stay in bed all day like Morrissey. What do you think about Gary V? I know you're a fan.
I think he's all right.
He's annoying.
You baited me.
I did bait you.
Right before we recorded, you're like, "What do you think about Gary V?" And I was like, "He's my favorite. I love him.
I'm following in his footsteps, Gary V."
Sometimes he talks a little bit too fast, but
I mean, I don't want to hate, but he's kind of annoying.
Nah, he's doing his thing. I appreciate him. If he motivates people, that's cool.
But his method isn't a method for success for everyone. Like, if it worked for him, doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone.
No.
So all I'm saying is just don't take what he has to say as gospel.
Yeah, I like that he encourages. If you got an idea, try it, but don't be a dummy. Like, just do it. Try to do it in a smart way. Reach for the stars. I don't know. I'm not Gary V. I'm not a motivational speaker.
Yeah, I haven't bought into all Gary's.
We are self-aware that we do a video and audio podcast, like we do the show, and we do want fans, but not everything you don't need fans if you're, like you said, mowing your lawn once a week. You don't have to like put it on Instagram and try to make a business where other people are fans of your lawn mowing. That's a really dumb example.
I don't know what you're
looking at me like I'm crazy.
I'm just saying, like, do you want to be the entrepreneur type of guy that wants to like really get people to go, or do you just want to tell people how to live their lives all the time? Like, are you a motivational speaker or are you a businessman? That's what I don't get with him. Yeah. Like, pick one or the other, Gary V.
He's all jack of all trades.
Yeah. I guess since he was on Joe Rogan, he's cool.
Was he?
I think so.
I don't know.
I like Joe Rogan too. But at any rate, here's the next thing I want to bitch about real quick. The closed-minded metalheads, like I said, with the Deftones, they were able to show me all different types of genres. And, I'm sick of bumping into these metalheads that give me shit, like if it isn't brutal, if it isn't extreme, then I don't want nothing to do with it. And, blah, blah, blah. And like, they're always giving me shit for liking different music. Like, there's some people, like I respect their constructive criticism, but they're like, oh, well, when I've listened to your podcast, but it's just not metal all the time. Well, I don't want to do an all metal podcast.
Right.
So, get over yourself, branch out a little bit, metalhead.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
How about you?
I wanna go after Keith. I'm joking.
Shout out to Keith G.
No.
No, he's not one, but you got the guys.
You definitely do. I know. I've only recently in the last year met. I met a couple of them, but two of them specifically, they are exactly like that.
Yeah, Justin Wallace, joke.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
No,
not at all.
It's definitely not.
No,
Justin.
no.
He named his kid after Frank Zappa.
Right.
Is Frank Zappa metal?
No, but Frank Zappa's Frank Zappa.
Yeah.
We got to do a Zappa episode. We will. We'll bring Justin in on for that.
But yeah, no, I don't have any gripes. Things are good. Trying to get more sleep in my life, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
hey, universe, let me sleep a little more.
Let me sleep a little bit
That's
more.
I don't like what you like. I like to get more sleep.
All
Damn it. That's it.
Well, perfect. Now we're going to move on to this, and it's how we always close it out.
So stupid.
It's called Meditate on This, and all I got to say is create new habits, explore, discover, get outside your comfort zone. We've talked about comfort zones before, but upgrade yourself every day and find new ways to understand life's purpose. Get out there, meditate, run a mile, lift some weights. Just try to experience new shit. Go to a different show. Just don't go to metal shows. Go to a different one.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah, go to a Britney Spears concert,
Maybe
Slayer
not,
fan.
But yeah, try it.
Or try a Dave Matthews show.
Definitely.
No, never.
100%.
Ever try a
I've never
Dave
heard.
Matthews show.
I've never heard somebody give a bad Dave Matthews story. Though,
Well,
shout out to Oscar in Texas.
Oh, shout out to
We
Oscar.
went to opening a few years ago. It was one of my first shows. A group of us went out there in Texas near Houston to one of those venues. And I think he either fell asleep or went to the car to sleep because he wasn't into it. So, so not everybody.
I love you,
digs it.
Oscar. I love you. But now we're going to close out with that digital bath recording from July 1st, 2000. Like I said, it's from a guy or a gal named Deftones Live. I gave you a little backtrack on it, and it was special to me. He just released it 2 months ago, I believe. And it's the best live performance with Chino singing this track because he could hit the notes, and it's before that one vocal cord died. But he got it back, but it's never really been the same.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, everybody, subscribe to Musically Meditative Podcast and all podcast-related platforms, and share it. And we'll be back with a guest. White Pony, forever. We love you.
Go.
Adios. Adios.